It's our pleasure to welcome now Ben Milam, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Hey, Gerard. Happy Friday.
What's up there, Big Ben?
Oh, man, just ready for the weekend. It's been a long week full of a lot of hard and soft news, just an action-packed week.
Yeah.
A lot of big stuff happening, of course, as you know, the inauguration. And I feel like we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here that people have probably heard about, but maybe we can give a few extra details. But, of course, the inauguration, as I just mentioned, and then you had the college football playoff title game. The Fighting Catholics went down. Sorry, Gerard. Ohio State wins the first 12-team college football playoff, and I would imagine this offseason there's going to be plenty of conversation about expanding that and how to tweak it with auto bids and all this kind of fun stuff. That's more of a sports talk thing this afternoon. But it was it kind of starting on Monday, you had these two massive things that happened, and the rest of the week it just kind of hadn't slowed down at all.
Well, you left out the Snowmageddon.
And the Snowmageddon. Yeah, I'm telling you, you miss a few things when you're thinking about it with such a big news week. But, yeah, of course, our people in South Mississippi listening and that do tune in don't need to be told that this, was kind of a strange occurrence. It was a historic occurrence, and the National Weather Service still kind of working on some of these records to officially stamp them as records, but we do know it was some of the most snowfall in South Mississippi in over 50 years. Of course, in Louisiana, they do have some confirmed records. 10 inches in New Orleans. That ties a Louisiana record set back in 1895, 130 years ago. And then, of course, you just go about 80 miles to the east in Gulfport. Had about, I think, confirmed 6 inches, and that could grow. I think I'm really not sure of how that works, but they're still working to, I guess, measure that fully, compile records from different places on the coast. Again, not totally sure, but the record for that, just for inquiring minds, 7 inches in December of 1963 in Gulfport. So if we don't hit that record, we're going to be really, really close. 6.3 inches was the next closest in 1895. So we could hit that, or I guess that was the second most. And then 2 inches in March of 1993. So we smashed that. We completely obliterated that record. It is something that people who have lived on the coast for a very, very long time have not seen, and I think we're starting to get some meltage of snow, and it'll be warming up starting Saturday night, Sunday, and especially Monday and Tuesday. It'll start pushing towards the 50s and 60s, and so the roads will, of course, be safer to drive at that point. But yeah, man, something that we really haven't seen. It's just kind of wild to see those pictures of the beach covered in snow, and we're up, here, and some of us in Jackson and, of course, in North Mississippi didn't see any snow other than maybe a few spot snow flurries. But yeah, that was another historic thing that happened this week in the pile of things that happened over the last 5 or 6 days. And then in Tupelo, you had a 41-year record low in terms of temperature, just without the precipitation. Reached single digits for the first time since the early 1990s. And I'm kind of hoping 1984. I'm kind of hoping we're out of that bitter cold stretch. Usually we have one, maybe two. I'm hoping it's just one this year.
Man, seeing the video of folks in New Orleans on Canal Street. Rhino sent that to me, skating around. That's just crazy.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things that I saw, of course, they're just an abundance of videos and pictures. I have brothers that live in Baton Rouge, and they got around 9 inches too. That was the most since 1895 as well. Yeah. But on Bourbon Street, to see people having snowball fights and ice skating and all these things, just weeks after that terror attack happened in New Orleans, I thought it was a really cool picture of the resilience of those people and just Americans in general to be able to enjoy snow so soon after such a terrible thing happened, and can kind of take your mind off things a little bit when you see the white stuff falling down, Gerard.
totally. It was, I was up in Washington, all over the place up there as well. And
was it snowing up there when you were there?
It did on Sunday.
Okay.
We had some wintry mix precipitation, snow, sleet, freezing rain, etc., making the driving conditions quite treacherous and walking conditions as well.
Especially with open-toed shoes on.
Yes.
Yeah. And the driving conditions were already kind of restricted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very much because of the security.
Yes.
So what about what's going on with Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who had a hand in the nomination and then ultimately confirmation, I should say, of Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State?
That's right. She explained this on the Gallo Show earlier this week. But she kind of gave a behind-the-scenes look of how that worked. And, of course, after the inauguration, the cabinet picks for President Trump, you started to see those move forward in earnest in terms of the confirmation votes. Marco Rubio was the first Trump's Secretary of State as the nation's chief diplomat. And he was unanimously confirmed. That is a relatively rare occurrence, especially in the last 5 presidential administrations as we've kind of moved into this day and age of political rhetoric and bipartisanship, or partisanship, I should say. But 99-0 was the vote in the Senate to confirm Marco Rubio. And where Cindy Hyde-Smith comes in is, I think, precedence is usually that if you are being voted on as a senator for a potential nomination, you vote present. You basically abstain from the vote. But Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, said she's gotten to know Marco Rubio really well in their time working in the Senate together. And he asked her, should I vote for myself? He felt a little weird doing that. And she encouraged him to do that to express confidence. Basically, if you're confident in your ability to do this job, your capacity to serve in this role, you should vote for yourself. And that he did. And so it was that vote of 99-0. Of course, the one missing was J.D. Vance, who is no longer serving in his Senate seat as the vice president. And then the other piece of Cindy Hyde-Smith news, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, is she already has a challenger for 2026.
Yep.
Her seat will be up for contention. Ty Pinkins will be at least one of her Democratic challengers. He's obviously got to go through the primary phase, but he announced that he is set to run for a second consecutive statewide contention race. He, of course, ran against Roger Wicker in the general election in 2024. Roger Wicker won that by a pretty good margin, but Pinkins is, he initially ran for that statewide seat, Secretary of State, in 2023 after Sawaski Young dropped out of that race. And so he's kind of, I think, worked his way into top of mind for a lot of the Democratic leaders in Mississippi and nationally. And it'll be really interesting to see how the national DNC handles Pinkins in this race, because one of the things that Ty Pinkins talked about and kind of lamented was that he had a lack of support from the DNC as he was challenging Roger Wicker in 2024. And so we'll see if that changes. I don't know. You would assume it would be an uphill battle, always is, against an incumbent. But he would be, hypothetically, if he defeated Cindy Hyde-Smith, he would be the first Democratic U.S. Senator since John Stennis in 1989. So
that would be
Blue
Dog Coalition back in those days. So.
That is right, back in the old days. And he's hoping to get back to that seat and win one of these elections. He's had 2 really tough challenges in the past 2. And then, Gerard, I wanted to mention, obviously you've been talking about it, but one of the things that's kind of been teased earlier this week is, there's obviously been a lot of talk about HB1. You were just talking about it. There have been conversations and kind of musings about whether the Senate would just kill this bill and come up with their own bill. Sounds like they're going to counter this with their own bill. And one of the things that is going to be addressed, this is per Senate Appropriations Chair Briggs Hobson, is that increased spending on Medicaid and some of those other things.
Okay.
So there you go.
So we've already heard about that. That's right. It was pretty predictable, but here's where we are. All right. Ben, appreciate you coming in with that update. Good recap.
Sure thing. Thanks, Gerard.
You bet. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio. Today at 12:05, it's Douglas Carswell. He's the president and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy.